Hi everyone. Happy New Year. I sort of forget the rush that goes along with each little window coming into being, never quite knowing have people changed their pictures or who might appear or where might they be, and then just seeing your faces. Somehow we find ourselves in 2023. Did you ever imagine? I'm not sure I did imagine I would find myself suddenly in 2023. Let's just sit for a minute just while people are coming on and just see what it's like to be in the new year together. With the sound of the bell, noticing it could be any time. What's it like to arrive here? You suddenly find yourself here with a whole host of feelings and sensations and sunlight and grains in old wood floors, snoring animals. What's it like to be here? And you might notice if there are any what you consider impediments or impingements on being here. You might have ideas about what kind of day it is. If it's off to a good start or a bad start. If you have companions or if you're alone. And whatever ideas you have might wash over your experience with color, one shade or another. But there's something much larger than that you can just rest into. The new year coming to meet us. Eternity coming to meet us. again and again. Silence opening all around us. Again and again. Just noticing we have a Bob Woodburn with us, which is a very, very nice thing to have. If you're not on PZI Talk, Bob had a heart attack just a few days ago and is with us and recovering. So it's very nice to see you, Bob. So, hi everyone. Happy New Year. It's nice to know you've made it across the threshold. It always feels like, always at the end of the year, you can tell in the news there are a few people that just kind of go like, I don't think I'm up for another one. And even in something in us, something falls away and somehow we find ourselves with something new. Yet we haven't gone anywhere. And I had the feeling today I've missed the Sundays, and like we've all been on some deep internal retreat of some kind. We've been through something in the time we've been apart. And I know what a few of those things are, but it's this sort of, had this urge of, I wish I could pour everybody a cup of tea and just say, how are you doing? How was it? What's happening for you? But we can sort of see in each other's faces and just feeling what it is to be here together. Somehow we've arrived. We've made it here. And I myself am someplace I've never been before to do this, which is during the break, I moved into a house we've been building for 2 years. And it's this very interesting thing because, like life itself, for 2 years, I watched this thing come into being, and I knew every post and every time something new would happen, a beam would be erected or a roof would go on or sheetrock would happen, I would know, I would come see it and be excited. And yet actually being inside of it, I've never been here before. And so there's this very interesting continual experience I'm having, which I think is very akin to what we're up to in meditation, which is something is incredibly familiar and I've always been here, and yet I'm continually discovering what appears and what it's like. And there's this odd mix of familiarity, intense familiarity, which you can feel when you really look at something. But it's not, its life is bound in some way with yours. It's not outside of you. Even if I just look at sort of the fabric holding the bell on my desk, there's a kind of beauty that enters me as I look at it, and I think, oh yeah, I know that fabric. And yet the longer I hold my attention on it, I just discover new things about it. Discover what silver feels like or green feels like. And I like that dance. And so in a way, you've never been here before either. So today we just get to discover something. And I was talking this week with someone who was remembering the first time she ever did Dokusan with a teacher. And she sat down, and the teacher, as teachers are infamous for doing, just sort of stared at her and stared for a long time. And she felt, uh-oh, what? I think she finally said something like, what? What should happen now? And the teacher said to her, well, I'm just seeing what it's like to be with you, discovering what it's like to be with you. And the student immediately heard that as the teacher coming to a kind of verdict about what she's like as a person. That you're a nice person to be with, or a non-nice person, or smart or not smart, or pretty or not pretty. And so she could feel herself kind of, draw back. But as she's been practicing over the years, part of what she's recognizing is, of course that teacher had no idea what it's like to be with me. I don't even know what it's like to be with me until I arrive here in some way. And that we're just noticing Dokusan and any kind of, yes, that's sort of a Zen thing. We're just seeing what's it like to have this encounter, what happens, despite my ideas about it, and as those fall away, what's happening. And so she's been growing a taste for this, what's it like? And so over the holidays, she did this incredibly brave thing, which was her dad's been getting a little interested in Zen. And I don't know how many of you have familiarity introducing your family members to Zen or koan work, but it can go a multitude of different ways. But her dad has kind of he's got a good mind, and he has kind of a taste for what these koans might be. And so she was noticing one day, being with him, that the space just felt very full with banter and chatter and ideas and all sorts of things. And so she finally said to him, well, can we just try being quiet together for a few minutes? I really want to just see what it's like to just be with you. And he said, well, what do you mean? We are being together. What do you? And she said, well, no, we just try it with me. We just sit with me in silence for a few minutes. And he said, all right, yeah, I'll try it with you. And she said there are just these waves of both incredible awkwardness of not grabbing for the familiar sort of way of being together or filling the space, or not wanting to say what's happening, or, do you think this is weird, or are you okay, or, and then there'd be these waves of a kind of warmth and familiarity and just a settling together. And then it would feel awkward again, and then it would feel comfortable again, and so finally this went on. And I could tell as I was listening to her, my sense was it didn't resolve anything, it opened something. That this person that I think I know so well, on the one hand, feels so familiar and intimate, and on the other I realize, well, who is he? Who is this person? Who am I with him? What is this? And so just this question. It's kind of one of the origin Zen questions, I guess, which is maybe why it kept finding me for the new year. So what is this? What is this? And did you notice that the ideas are fun. This is interesting. This is rich, this is beautiful, this is terrifying. These are like, they're interesting, they're fun, they lend images, they lend texture to reality, but they never quite encompass it. And there's a tremendous sort of excitement and relief. It's very much a territory of paradox of, can I just inhabit those spaces and then let them fall away? That Zen calls emptiness and form. Can I somehow hold the paradox as I'm just being in my life, that I have these experiences and somehow I also have no idea who I am or what's happening? And I find this particularly vivid at the new year, where you think, well, what happened last year? Where am I going? Where have I been? And am I happy with my life? And who's close to me? And there's that taste of ending still in our mouth as something's opening, and yet almost like a Swiss watch, the new year clicks in. I was noticing this vast open space the last few days of the year where I just thought, I have no idea who I am or even what I'm up to or anything. It was almost like the outside world entirely disappeared. And then by January 2nd, it was like everything flooded back in. And I thought, oh, right, life is happening. And so I guess one of the things that I'm curious about is, what is it in us that somehow, I don't know, stops that sense of curiosity and wonder or tries to make things smaller than they are? Last year I saw, there's a great movie with Emma Thompson, which now, of course, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a very recent movie where she has this sort of romantic encounter with a younger man. And the entire movie takes place in one room, and like 4 scenes in one room. And probably about the first half of the movie is him just saying, how are you? What would you like? What's happening? And her saying, you must think I'm pathetic. You must think I'm crazy or stupid, or like no matter what he does to say, you know, would you like some water? Would you like some champagne? Oh, you must think I'm the kind of person who needs a drink this time of the day. You must, yes, thank you, Amy. Goodbye to you, Leo Grande. Good luck to you, Leo Grande. The whole movie is at least the first half is all her ways of not being able to meet him. And by the end, you'll see if you watch it, but when she can't use her own experience anymore, she starts to think about, well, why is it that you are here with me? What is it lacking in your life? What is happening, you know? And it's like, you can see, we do this. And it's a defense in a way against that. Just, what is this? What is this? What is this? And, you know, there's another koan that somehow in my mind seems to go with this one that says, each being is an 8,000-foot precipice. And it's like each moment is kind of an 8,000-foot precipice in a way. Like I've been noticing that with this house. It's like I think I know it, but I don't. I sit with someone I think I know and I catch something in their eye and a universe opens, and it's like there's always this ability to keep opening to things. And there's some way in which when things drop away, as they do at the end of the year, we get to open ourselves anew to something. And I found something I want to read to you. I'm a very devoted follower of Humans of New York, which a lot of you probably know. It's just this guy who goes around and talks to people and gets amazing things out of them. And he found this, I'll just read it to you, it speaks for itself. This girl in the park with her dog. And she says, "I haven't been 17 for very long, but I will say, aside from the schoolwork, it's really a wonderful time. I have the freedom to go wherever I want to go, but not a ton of responsibility. I can walk out of the house with my dog and go for this walk and not worry about getting back. I do need to finish a 650-word personal statement for my college applications. It's not an easy thing to describe yourself in 650 words. I don't really know who I am yet, though I am growing more comfortable with not knowing. At least that means other people aren't defining me either. When I look at older people I admire, to be honest, I do define them a bit. I guess it's just the easiest way to understand them because I haven't experienced much of being older. When you're 17, you haven't done much, but there's also freedom to that because there's not much to define you by other than the moment." I thought, we need to hire this kid. She seems, she's got the hang of it. But you can also see, I don't know, that's true all the time. I don't know much about being 65 or 35 or 75 yet. It's got some nice features. It's got some challenges. I probably still can't define myself in a 650-word essay, but that's all right. It's whatever might come. And there's a kind of beauty to that not knowing and that what's appearing. And I think I was saying to someone recently, I remember what it's like. My stepsister many years ago allowed me to watch my little niece being born. And which, if you've ever seen a child just appear in the world, is probably one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in my life. There's all this huffing and puffing and distress, and then all of a sudden a face appears in the world, and there's a human being. And having all this planning, you have no idea. You just gaze into their little eyes and think, where did you come from, and how did you do that? How did you appear? And I was sharing this with someone, and this person said, well, I remember the first time when I was pregnant, the very first time I could feel my child move in my stomach. And that there's a word for it. It's called quickening. The first time you feel that life. You don't need an actual child to feel that kind of stirring in your own being of a beginning. That there's the stirring of new love, or there's the stirring of an idea, or there's a stirring of, you may not even know yet. It may just be on the horizon, something that's barely begun to enter consciousness. It's barely a seed in the ground. And I think one of the great tasks, in a way, is to not start shining a light too brightly on it, wanting it to be something, wanting it to resolve, wanting it to show itself, wanting it to wanting to know what to do, or what it is, or anything that might compel us to rush or quicken or ward off what might be coming. No, this seems like it could be sad, or it seems like it might be the ending of something. So what is it, I guess, to welcome those little tiny stirrings which are so intimate with uncertainty? And I guess the one other thing I want to say before we sit is how I've been thinking a fair bit also about how these endings and beginnings are both so intimately linked with uncertainty. Beginning is I don't know what it is yet, and an ending is somehow I've got to let go of something and I'm not sure what might appear or if anything might appear in its place. And I was noticing at the end of the year, I was talking with a couple people about how at the end of a year or a creative project or an anything, there's the recognizing what the limitations are of form. That with this particular conversation or time together, or this thing I've written, this poem, this song, I can only do so much. Only so much can be let in. And I've learned, someone said to me this great thing, well, by the time I reach the end, I realize everything I could have done differently. And it's both true that there are these bookends of stories that somehow allow us to, I don't know, have beginnings and endings and middles and all the richness of meaning. But then there's this vastness that somehow holds all of that together. And that we get to rest in those periods that aren't defined and get to be surprised. And so I'm going to tell you a little dream someone had, and then we'll sit. Because the interesting thing about this welcoming attitude, or this kind of giving over to the uncertainty of what might appear, is that things can even change in time. That, I'll tell you this dream. So this person's been going through a very hard time, particularly toward the end of the year. Things just felt incredibly dark and hopeless and impossible, as things sometimes do at the end of things and in the darkness of the end of the year. And, you know, has anything meant anything? And what am I up to? And is there any, where is my life going? And all of the things that seem to come. And somehow she had a dream one night that she was in her childhood school. And she was back being a child, and that, but instead of this place being what she remembers it to be, which was alienating and not where she felt comfortable and difficult, somehow she was friends with everyone, even though they were the same people. And she felt incredibly at home and happy to be there. And she was very surprised to find this. And then she somehow walked home in the dream and realized all her things in her childhood room were the same. And she was so happy to see them. And she realized the friends were inhabiting her house now. Her parents had sold the house the day before, and her friends now lived in the house. And this also made her very happy, and she could see that she actually felt at home here. And even the alarm code had been changed on the house. And she noticed she wasn't afraid anymore of some place that used to make her afraid, and she wandered back to school onto campus and walked into the woods. And she started realizing she maybe wasn't exactly where she thought she was anymore, and she saw a mountain, and she started climbing, and she realized there was a house up in the clouds on the mountain, and that she knew immediately that it belonged to an old Zen teacher that she used to sit with. And she was so happy to go get to see the teacher. And when she entered, it was bright, and it was an open room, and there were students she knew, and somehow there was this funeral rite taking place. And she could pay her respects. She knew that the body had been very well cared for, and that people were holding it and sending it off, and this made her very happy. And she felt honored to sort of be part of it. And then the teacher appeared, and there was the sense in the dream that they were the same age as when they met, and they were also the same age that they are now. And so there was this sort of bending of time together, but she was so happy to see the teacher. And the teacher said some things to her about her life. There are things she hasn't been able to make happen yet, but in the dream she had done them, and the teacher was very happy about this. And there was a sense that she wasn't going to ever see the teacher again, but that the teacher wanted to offer her something as a sort of parting gift, and just made a gesture to her. And in the dream it felt very, very important what this gesture was, but she had no idea what it was. She just sort of felt, she said goodbye to the teacher. And when she woke up in the morning, she realized that the gesture was from a song that her sister used to sing to her as a child, and how loved and cared for she felt when her sister used to sing that song, and she had completely forgotten about it. And she opened her eyes and just felt this wave of beauty, and like it was going to be okay. And she felt so happy that she saw the teacher. And she went to go to her dream journal to write the dream down. I want to read you what she found, because you'll see. Let's see where to go. There it is. She had notes from a session. And the first thing she saw was from a talk from John Tarrant that said, "Have confidence in the light that is always at work inside you. Everything stands in its own place, yet we are never apart from the brocade. Every time you object to your life, every time you are right, you cannot fall into ancient stardust." And she just started weeping. She somehow felt that everything she had been through, somehow everything in her life, all the gifts and all the sorrows and all the difficulty and all the blessings, belonged. And time just sort of slid around on her. It didn't seem to matter so much anymore. But she could just feel the richness of it. And yet, even in that, you just ask yourself, well, what is it? Like, what is this? What is this that makes that possible? What is it that holds us and reaches us? What is it that ends and begins and never disappears? Let's sit for a bit, shall we? One of the things about sitting together like this is how it always just keeps changing. When I get up sometimes in the morning to join the open temple, I think I know what it's going to be like, and then I arrive and I think, oh, right. I don't know what it'll be like to see the faces, or see the candlelight or the darkness, or just feel the voice of the person setting in who's holding the space. And this tension between how things happen that'll never happen again and we can't hold on to them, and that something is always happening, and that we always I guess the other thing I've been thinking about in all this is how in some way we're always home. We're always arriving. But the more we just welcome the world and welcome what lives inside of us, it's like we're also always home. And you can feel that as we just sink in. I want to read you just a couple poems I came across. One is called The Perfect Song. I remember walking through the morning after a night of heavy snow and drink with headphones on, and they played me the most perfect song. No one was awake, and I was hungover, young, as clean as a piano, I thought, and at any moment someone might fall in love with me. I was that woven into the electric, cold, bright air, and for weeks after, I went through the album in search of the song but could not find it. And later, much later, I saw that what I had taken to be the song was in fact the joyous concordance of a moment that would not come again. It's sort of like that when Jordan plays, I think. The joyous concordance of a moment that will not come again, but somehow continues to live in us. And let me find another one. It's in this territory of home and what lives in us. And finding yourself someplace both familiar that you have not been before. This is called Home by Edward Thomas. Often I had gone this way before, but now it seemed I could never be and had never been anywhere else. 'Twas home. One nationality we had, I and the birds that sang, one memory. They welcomed me. I had come back that eve somehow from somewhere far. The April mist, the chill, the calm meant the same thing, familiar and pleasant to us, and strange too, yet with no bar. The thrush on the oak top in the lane sang his last song, or last but one, and he ended. On the elm another had just begun, his last. They knew no more than I. The day was done. Then past his dark white cottage front a laborer went along, his tread slow, half with weariness, half with ease. And through the silence from his shed the sound of sawing rounded all that silence said. From his shed the sound of sawing rounded all that silence said. Something about coming home, arriving here, even if we don't know what it is. What are we doing? I think maybe it'd be nice to hear from a couple of people. Jesse Carden, who's in theory accompanying me. I'll say one funny thing about this, which is when Jesse and Michelle and I started talking about this month, we all three realized we were in the midst of a major move, and we sort of thought this must mean something about where things are at the moment. But Jesse, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I'm not sure I do, but I want to be a good sport. Let me look around. I think, well, the thing that really strikes me is how the not knowing is always available as a possibility. And I just really felt that during the meditation. And prior to that, I was hungry and my back hurt. It's the classic enlightenment story. I thought I had all these problems, and then I meditated and something happened. And after Jordan's playing, I slipped into something, that place where there's not even anything to hang your hat on. It's just, and then your voice came out of the mystery, and I thought, who's that? What's she talking about? It was really great. So now I look out at the snow that's been piled up over weeks and weeks, and now it's raining today, and I don't know, what else could there be? What is this? Yeah. Where will I live for the next 6 months? I don't know. Thank you.
Here. You'll live here. Just like me, just like the rest of us, I suppose. John Joseph, you have anything you'd like to say?
I've just been enjoying so much walking the path of your voice and your stories of Emma Thompson and The Woman's Dream are like trees, they're walking through. And also, that quality you talk about, like at the end of the new year where you didn't know who you were, and then you reconstituted a self, by January, or it started by January 2nd, and how much that's like the silence, and then the crow calls, or the raven calls, and this quality of the universe sort of dissolving and reconstituting itself, moment by moment. You had so many great examples of that in your talk. Thanks.
You want to say anything how the New Year's been for you, John?
Well, we had Dungeness crab last night for the first time, and it's sort of a New Year's late fall tradition, here for us at least in Northern California. But it was delayed because they found that there was 125 whales off the Golden Gate, and they didn't want the crab pots to entangle them, so they delayed the crab fishermen. And the quality of the whales and the crabs and the humans waiting, it's all a time of possibility, maybe. Thanks.
Seems a reasonable delay, whale crossing. Yeah. Thanks, John. Marion Power, you have anything you'd like to say?
I'm just aware of the thread. I feel like what you were talking about, for me, I feel like it's a thread that runs through things, which maybe is home for me. The new year I had, I was by myself. My husband went to teach in Seattle. So I was on my own for 10 days. And it was interesting to be on my own. Yeah, I had a couple of clients who were very needy and interesting. And they kind of brought me into very practical reality. I think I was floating a little bit. But there was a thread that ran through that as well, from my floating and being on my own and then kind of working with them. I think that's, yeah, just aware of some kind of continuity from waking up and dreams and looking at the sky. Today, it's very blue. It's beautiful after days and days of rain. Thank you.
Thanks, Marianne. I do think that's an interesting, what John Joseph was saying and you're saying, just what appears that needs my attention, and is it outside of whatever else I think is happening. The thing that marked the beginning of the year for me is there's still a number of things undone in my house, and so this quiet, protected new year became a construction site every morning at 8 a.m. And I would notice anytime I'd start to feel, oh, I'm being invaded, my silence is being invaded, or my, that this isn't somehow part of what's happening, I just somehow eventually give up and sink back into it, into the saws and into the chaos and at one point, all the different workers have different kinds of music they like, and the carpenters really have good music, and they had it kind of blasting. And so I brought my little lunch board out to eat, and he said, "Oh, is this bothering you?" And I said, "No, it's great, actually." And I just sat and sawed and listened to music and listened to all these guys. One of them said to the other, "No, man, I'm really growing, come on, don't give me a hard time." And it's like all these beings that are making up my house as I'm living in it, that their precision and their lives and their holidays and their life force is somehow intricately woven in just my being able to be here. And so there's been this sweetness in the absolute overwhelm and chaos of the invasion, and yet having that intimately linked with these guys who make this house possible and all of their lives. So it's just like, it's all in the mix. John Tarrant, you have anything you'd like to say?
I'm really enjoying taking the ride because I have no actual responsibilities for this event this month. And thank you. It's kind of really enjoyable just listening to you, thinking, wow, that's good. And so, but like the wild scenes in a way in NorCal here, like in Sonoma County with heavy winds and sort of the thing about just taking something in was there last night, this heavy winds and like loud things thumping on the roof. And I went outside to, oh, should I do anything about it? Is there anything I need to do anything about? The whole house shook when something hit it. And then I thought, I don't think I'm going to improve matters standing outside in the dark and the rain. And so, well, things are flying about the air. So I came back in, and this morning I couldn't even find it. So there's a certain sort of wonderful thing about just taking things in, and even when there's a kind of, where to just sink deeply into, well, where's this going, and not knowing. It was actually kind of great. And so on that, I'm very interested in I'm trying to write about the thing about humans being, that when we're lost, that's the beginning of something, important, that when I lose something, I lose whatever I suppose I lose my prejudices, or I lost my idea that I just sleep through the night without being woken by banging and lightning and pouring rain and things. And it's sort of, I don't know, I like that. So thank you.
Thanks. I'll read you one more little thing and then we'll sit a little more. It's just a snippet of a letter called Letters to Wendy's, and it says, "What a joy it is to be alive, to wake late in the morning and have cups and cups and cups of coffee, and in the heightened blind pulse that follows to play, to let language have its way, to let the business of the day close down with all of us still inside. We absolutely hang together in how dim the day gets. We hang by sentences. Listen. We hang by the sound of the shadow of a thread." What is it? The bell and the airplane are singing a duet. What is this? What are they singing? What ancient song? Thank you, everyone, for being here today. It's nice to be back in the ancient temple together in a brand new year. And thank you, Amaryllis, for that incredibly beautiful, piercing piece of music. I'm going to hand it back to you and Jordan. Take us out.
I've out awake all the beings of the world. I've out to set endless heartache to rest. I've out to walk through every wisdom gate. I've out to live the great Buddha way. I've out away all the beings of the world. I've out to set endless heartache to rest. I've out to walk through every wisdom gate. I've out to live the great Buddha way. I've found away all the beings of the world. I've found a set endless heartache to rest. I've found to walk through every wisdom gate. I've found to live the great Buddha way.
How strange. All right. Well, I said thank you, Amaryllis and Jordan, and Happy New Year, everyone. And I may have said something incredibly profound. Now you'll never know. It's gone forever. Jesse Carden will be here in my seat next week. Not literally, but you know what I mean. And we hope to see you. Thanks for being here.